This is what John Landsman has put on Twitter. We need a Labour government, not a lone backbencher. Jeremy should follow Tony Benn and leave Parliament to devote more time to politics, where his voice as a Labour member and former leader will be heard louder than in the Palace of Westminster. Now, I don't think that's most people's view, because if we look at this survey result here, do you want Jeremy Corbyn to stand as an independent candidate in Islington North? It's 1,425 people. 77.8% say yes, 5% say no, and there's 16% others. So it's quite clear that most people want Jeremy to stand. I'm just wondering what do you think, Ian Hodson? Should Jeremy retire and go on a tour talking around towns like Tony Benn did and not bother to stand again? What do you think?
He shouldn't take any advice from John Landsman. Absolutely none whatsoever. I mean, John Landsman's turned out to be a terrible and have terrible politics, you know. I mean, I remember being in London just before the general election where a newspaper was running an article attacking Jeremy Corbyn after an interview with his good friend John Landsman. So I hope that Jeremy Corbyn gives it the short shrift that advice deserves. For me, Jeremy Corbyn's right to choose is his right to choose, and whatever he chooses to do, you know, I think as decent human beings, we should recognise that it's his choice. If he stands, then we'll all be there to support him. If he chooses to stand down, I think I'd have that. You know, I'd understand. You know, after the last few years, the horrible pressure, the horrible names he's been called, the smearing, the attacks, the personal abuse, the victimization of Jeremy Corbyn, a really decent human being. I could understand if he did want to go through that. But knowing Jeremy Corbyn, I know that he'll put the interests of the people first, because that's who he always has put first. And my belief is he will probably do it for us.
Yeah. Well, look, I got a message from Jeremy Corbyn this morning. I don't think it'd be good for him to come on anyway, but it says, "My thanks to everyone for supporting Islington North and following my statement. The 5 points I set out encompass the needs of our time. Please support them." That's what he's written. So he's not giving away anything about whether he's standing or not. But I think, as you say, we respect whatever his decision is. I'm not pushing him to stand or not. It's up to him. He's had enough thrown at him, hasn't he?
He absolutely has. I mean, I don't know any other politician that suffered like Jeremy Corbyn has. And you know, when you think about it, I mean, he's someone who stood at the last minute just so we could have somebody from the left standing on a platform for the leadership of the Labour Party, and he stood on his principles and on his history, and people saw what he was standing for, understood what he stood for, and voted for him. And then he brought in and inspired people either back into politics who thought politics wasn't for them, or encouraged people to get involved in politics. I mean, I noticed some stuff about there on the Breakthrough Party. I mean, all of those people involved in the Breakthrough Party were all inspired by Jeremy Corbyn and joined and got involved in politics because of what he said, as did so many others who were setting up other political organisations up and down the country. And, you know, I think what's really, really important is that, you know, as I used to get really upset when we used to turn all of our conferences into defence conferences. I don't do defence. I'm like Audrey. I believe the left has the answers to the problems we face in our country, but we always get stuck in having to defend ourselves. Well, yeah. I don't defend myself. You know, you can either like me or dislike me. I'm not bothered. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I will tell you what I stand for. I'll tell you what I'll fight for. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. You know, if I'm going to say I'm going to fight for £15 an hour, I'm going to fight for £15 an hour. And I'm going to talk about £15 an hour. And you can say whatever you like about me. You can smear me as much as you like. You can say I've got no right and I've got no understanding about economics. but I'll still stick to the fact that I am going to fight for £15 an hour, because I believe that no worker should be earning less than that. You know, and the thing is, the difference between us and the right wing of the Labour Party is that the Labour Party is so afraid of the Daily Mail, so afraid of offering aspirations to the working class. It hasn't got the courage to speak out, but we have. And that's what we need to do. We need to talk about the things that we believe in, talk about how we will change people's lives, because that's how we got the NHS. That's how we built council houses. That's how we built a welfare state, because we made sure that our agenda was there for everybody to hear. So when Ken Loach talks about setting up shadow whatever, that's great, building up in every community. But talking about the things that we believe in, making the difference, because we change lives. They stop life. We change people's lives for the better.
Exactly, I agree exactly. That they make us talk about this, and we are talking about this, but I think we have to confront this idea that, you know, the left in Labour is not able to move and do anything, and people could be spending their time more usefully elsewhere, and I think we have to discuss that, and I think we have to put forward these ideas. But if you don't mind, I'm just going to move. I'm just going to show a picture, and then of this is a tweet from a member of the National Executive Committee, Gurinder Singh Josan. He's been on the show when it was called Labour Grassroots. He's the only sort of right winger who came on. He says, very surprised by the silence from Corbyn and his supporters, particularly in PLP, given the fighting talk from the left at NEC on Tuesday. Could it be he's tweaked, he's got no chance of winning against a Labour candidate in Islington North, a Labour supporting constituency? Now, I've brought on Chris Williamson as well for this. They're taunting the left. They're kind of like saying, look, we're running rings around you. You can't. You're all talk. You've got nothing to offer. Jeremy Corbyn might not even have the guts to stand in Islington North. The SCG are sort of compliant. I mean, we've got this survey result as well. I'll just show you this one, which says, do you think that socialist MPs within Labour will face the same fate as Jeremy Corbyn? Yes, 61.6%. So lots of people think that other socialist campaign group MPs will face the same fate as Jeremy Corbyn. There's a lot of fear. They've put a lot of fear into people, as Ian was saying, Chris. That is going on. I mean, I can't get some people to come on the show. I mean, they're just so scared. When are people going to actually start thinking it's not worth running away anymore and stop getting your head down?
Well, I think people are increasingly beginning to fight back, but we need to see more people doing so. I mean, Momentum and the Socialist Campaign Group, I mean, essentially they're acting as Starmer's obedient sheepdog, herding people back into the Labour Party. But the way Jeremy's been treated, of course, is hugely disrespectful. Somebody that's given his life to the Labour movement. He served the party with great distinction, made the party the biggest party in Europe, had a policy programme which was very popular, biggest increase in vote share since 1945, and he's been treated as a pariah. And, when Keir Starmer in the clip that you showed earlier on talked about, he's going to be ruthless, that's what Jeremy lacked. Jeremy needed a bit of ruthlessness when he was the leader. And we're in the situation that we're in now because of the way in which the leadership sought to try to placate bad faith actors and continually gave ground and apologised for something that they weren't guilty of doing. And that just sort of emboldened the haters. And a few of us, me included, sought to try and push back against that. And I said to Jeremy, he should stop apologising. He, of all people, had got nothing to apologise for. But unfortunately, I wasn't listened to, and I tried to persuade the Socialist Campaign Group to draw a line and fight back, and they wouldn't do that. Because in the end, I think they're careerists, and they put their career before any principles in reality. And I was struck really as well by the clip you showed about Jeremy when he talked about the way in which he'd been treated and the fact that he wasn't given the right to answer the allegations being made against him. He talked about the lack of natural justice, but that was happening under Jeremy's watch as well. Let's remember, there was no natural justice for me. I wasn't given the opportunity to speak about what was happening to me. Ken Livingstone wasn't afforded any natural justice. Jackie Walker wasn't afforded any natural justice. Tony Greenstein wasn't. So this isn't a new phenomenon. Jeremy is the last in a long line. And John Donne at the beginning alluded to Pastor Niemöller's poem, first they came, first they came for the trade union, or first they came for the communists, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a communist, then they came for the trade unionists, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a trade unionist, and then they came for the Jews, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a Jew, and then they came for me, and there was nobody left to speak out for me. Well, a few of us were saying this, for Christ's sake, isn't it about time we stood up and started fighting back? And because by constantly giving ground in the way in which the leadership did, it meant that we weren't able to get a hearing for the very popular policies because we were forever firefighting. So I think that we need to, learn that lesson. And, as Ken and Audrey, I think, have said, and Ian, we've got to be brave and be clear about what we stand for and don't be diverted from the fact that, we're fighting for a better and decent society, and these characters are just bad faith actors that are trying to do us down. And so I just say, stop looking to the leadership from the Socialist Campaign Group. It ain't coming. It isn't coming. And I just hope that Jeremy will stand as a candidate in Islington North, his constituency. But it shouldn't just be about Jeremy standing in Islington North, because in some ways what John Lansman says about, well, just what's one backbencher going to be able to achieve? And in some respects, that's correct. And so I think Jeremy, in my opinion, has got an obligation to do something bigger than that. And that is to, and I've suggested this to Jeremy behind the scenes, throw his weight behind, an existing group like the party I joined, Socialist Labour Party, or the Trade Union and Socialist Coalition, or the Workers' Party. But the key thing is for Jeremy, in my opinion, to be the figurehead to bring the left outside the Labour Party together to mount a meaningful challenge, not just in Islington North. We want to mount a meaningful challenge across the country. And Jeremy, I think, is the only person with a massive following that he's got. What's he got? 2 million plus followers on social media. Could have a hugely beneficial impact, I think, if he were to do that. Even if he decided not to stand in Islington North, but were to get behind a united left movement outside the Labour Party, because the Labour Party's finished. It's dead. It's like the Monty Python sketch about the dead parrot. It is a deceased entity. It's no longer, it's gone, it's finished. Now, I can't remember the lines from the dead parrot sketch, but that's the bloody Labour Party. Let's move on and build something else. And, I think Jeremy is the best placed person to enable us to actually build that alternative, or at least to give it a kickstart. With or without Jeremy, we have to do it, as hard as that might be.